The mop bucket crashed at my feet in front of 300 people, and dirty gray water spread across the white marble like my shame had been poured out for everyone to admire. For 2 seconds, the Grand Meridian Hotel went silent. Then the laughing started. It came from the women near the champagne tower first, soft and sharp, like glass tapping glass. Then it spread through the ballroom until I could feel it crawling over my skin. I was on my knees in a pale blue housekeeping uniform, my sleeves soaked past my elbows, my hair falling loose from the bun I had pinned before dawn. Around me stood New York's prettiest rich girls, wrapped in silk, diamonds, and the kind of confidence that comes from never having to apologize for taking up space. Cassandra Whitmore stood above me in a red dress that looked like it had been made to match spilled blood. She tilted her champagne flute toward me and smiled. "Look at her," she said loudly enough for the whole room to hear. "They said this hotel was 5-star, but apparently they're hiring people who can't even hold a mop." Her friends burst out laughing. One of them, a blonde named Blair, covered her mouth with a handful of rings. "Oh my God," Blair said. "Did she just flood the ballroom?" Cassandra's heel touched the edge of the bucket, the same bucket she had kicked seconds earlier when she stepped backward without even looking at me. But now she pointed at it like the accident had been mine. "You should clean faster," she said. "The investors from Dubai are arriving soon. Nobody wants to see this." I wanted to say she had kicked it. I wanted to stand up, point at her red-bottom heels, and tell everyone she had looked straight at me before knocking it over, but I knew how rooms like that worked. A woman like Cassandra could spill poison and be called elegant. A woman like me could breathe wrong and be called a problem. So I reached for the rag. "My name is Elena Cruz. I was 28, living in the Bronx with rent that ate half me paycheck and a heart that had learned to stay quiet because quiet people survived longer. For almost 3 years, I cleaned suites, scrubbed tubs, changed sheets, polished mirrors, and disappeared before guests had to remember workers had faces. The Grand Meridian sat on Park Avenue, all gold trim, black awnings, white orchids, and polished lies. Presidents slept there. Billionaires threw wedding parties there. Men who fired 10,000 employees in a morning smiled for charity pictures under crystal chandeliers at night. And people like me entered through the service door beside the dumpsters. I had been up since 4:30 that morning. I had taken the 2 train while the sky was still dark, carrying my black sneakers in a tote bag so they wouldn't get ruined in the rain. My Aunt Rosa had called before my shift to remind me that her electric bill was due, even though I hadn't lived with her in 5 years. "You still owe me," she said. "For what?" "For raising you when your mother died." She said it like love was a loan with interest. My mother died when I was 14. Breast cancer, late diagnosis, no savings, and a landlord who sent eviction notices while her body was still warm. My father had been gone before I learned how to spell his last name. Rosa took me in because the family shamed her into it, not because she wanted a skinny teenage girl sleeping in her living room. She used to tell me, "Girls like you don't get rescued, Elena. You work, you keep your head down, and you thank God nobody worse finds you." For years, I believed her. That afternoon, while I knelt on the marble with Cassandra Whitmore smiling above me, I heard my aunt's voice again. "Keep your head down." So I did. I pressed the rag into the spreading water and tried not to shake. A waiter stepped around me with a silver tray. The hotel manager, Mr. Harlan, stood near the ballroom doors with his jaw clenched, not because I had been humiliated, but because the humiliation had become visible. He hurried over only after Cassandra sighed dramatically. "Is there a reason she's still here?" she asked. Mr. Harlan looked at me the way people look at stains. "Elena," he said through his teeth, "move quickly." "I'm trying." "Don't talk back." My face burned. Cassandra leaned closer, her perfume thick and expensive. "I hope they take this out of your paycheck." I swallowed the words in my throat until they cut going down. When the marble was finally dry, I stood, gathered the bucket, and carried it toward the service hallway. The ballroom behind me glittered like nothing ugly had happened. Laughter returned. Champagne poured. A violinist began playing near the staircase. The world knew exactly how to keep moving after breaking someone. In the service hallway, I set the bucket down and leaned my back against the wall. My hands were trembling. Water dripped from my sleeves onto the gray tile. I did not cry. Crying in a place like the Grand Meridian was dangerous. Someone would either call you unstable or use it as proof you belonged nowhere near beautiful things. I had 6 more bathrooms to check before the evening gala. The hotel had been preparing for one family for 3 days, the Almansors. That name had been whispered through every floor like a storm warning. Nadir Almansor, global hotel investor, real estate king, billionaire, the kind of man whose signature could save a company or bury it. His wife, Yasmin, famous for her charities and her silence. His oldest son, Amir, who was coming to New York to finalize a partnership with Whitmore Hospitality, Cassandra's family empire. The staff gossip was worse than usual. Because everyone believed Cassandra wasn't just there to smile for investors. She was there to become Mrs. Almanzor. By noon, housekeeping had received printed instructions. Do not speak unless spoken to. Do not enter the main ballroom after 6 p.m. Do not use guest elevators. Do not look directly at the Almanzor family unless assisting them. Those rules were not new. Not really. They were just the truth written down. At 5:47, Mr. Harlan called all of us into the laundry room. He looked like he had swallowed a battery. Tonight is important, he said. This hotel's future depends on flawless execution. No mistakes. No drama. No wandering into guest spaces. If any of you embarrass this hotel, you will not finish the shift. His eyes landed on me. A few workers looked away. I kept my face still. By 7, the ballroom had been transformed into something. From a magazine. White roses climbed gold arches. Candles floated in glass cylinders, every table setting had 4 forks, 3 glasses, and a folded black card with names embossed in silver. Outside the tall windows, Manhattan glowed cold and untouchable. He was supposed to be gone from that room by then. But one of the event assistants had spilled wax on the inside of a window ledge, and Mr. Harlan shoved a cleaning kit into me hands. Fast, he said. And stay invisible. I almost laughed. Invisible was what I had been practicing my whole life. I moved behind the curtains, knelt near the glass, and scraped wax with a dull plastic blade. My back ached. My palms smelled like lemon cleaner. I could hear the orchestra warming up. Voices floated in from the lobby, low and excited. Then the ballroom doors opened. I froze behind the curtain. Footsteps crossed the marble. Men's shoes. Women's heels. A soft rustle of fabric. I held my breath and stayed bent low, hoping whoever had entered would leave before anyone saw me. A man's voice spoke first, deep and controlled. The Whitmores are expecting a public announcement tonight. Another man answered. Younger. Calm, but edged with irritation. I know what they're expecting. Expectation is the point of business, Amir. I recognized the name and felt my stomach drop. Amir Almanzor. I should have slipped out immediately. Instead, my cleaning bottle slid from the ledge, hit my knee, and rolled out from behind the curtain. It bounced once across the marble. The room went silent. I closed my eyes. Then I stepped out. Nadir Almanzor stood near the center of the ballroom in a black tuxedo, silver hair perfectly combed, posture so straight he looked carved. Beside him stood Yasmin Almanzor in midnight blue, elegant without trying. And between them was Amir. He was not what I expected. Not soft. Not flashy. Not smiling like men smile when they know their last name opens doors. He was tall, dark-haired, dressed in a tuxedo that probably cost more than my rent for a year. But his eyes were tired in a way money couldn't polish. I bent quickly to pick up the bottle. I'm sorry, I said. I was told to clean the window ledge. I'll leave right now. Nadir did not answer. Yasmin looked at me, but not the way guests usually looked at staff. She looked like she was reading a page she recognized. Amir took one step forward. You were the woman in the ballroom earlier, he said. My throat tightened. I clean many rooms, sir. That wasn't what I meant. I could feel Mr. Harlan's warning pounding in my ears. Do not speak. Do not look directly. Stay invisible. So I lowered my gaze and backed away. Excuse me. I walked toward the service door, expecting someone to call me back. No one did, but just before I stepped into the hallway, I heard Yasmin's voice. Amir. Then his. She didn't spill that bucket. My hand stopped on the door. I did not turn around, but something inside me did. The next morning, my keycard failed at the locker room. It tapped. It again. Red light. Again. Red light. A security guard watched from the desk. Elena Cruz? Yes. Mr. Harlan wants to see you. His office smelled like coffee and leather. He did not invite me to sit. A beige file sat open on his desk, though there was nothing inside it but a blank form and his performance. There was a complaint, he said. About what? About you being in the ballroom after restricted hours. You sent me. There. I sent you to handle a minor issue discreetly. You were seen by VIP guests. Because they walked in early, I wanted to say. Because I was working. Because I exist. Instead, I said, I did my job. Mr. Harlan took off his glasses. Elena, I'm going to give you advice. A woman in your position should not attract attention from people in theaters. My skin went cold. What does that mean? It means certain guests felt uncomfortable with what happened last night. Because a man saw me cleaning? Because you created confusion. I stared at him. There it was again. That word people used when cruelty had a nice suit. Confusion. As if Cassandra humiliating me was confusion. As if Amir noticing it was confusion. As if my being human in a rich room had disrupted the natural order. I need you on service corridors only, he said. Bathrooms? Stairwells, loading area. No guest floors. No ballroom. That's a punishment. That's scheduling. I nodded because I needed my job more than I needed the satisfaction of calling him a liar. All day, I cleaned places guests pretended didn't exist. Basement toilets. Staff stairs. Back hallways that smelled like bleach and old steam. Around 5, Mr. Harlan found me near the linen carts. His face was red. Come with me. What? Happened? Just come. He brought me back to his office and shut the door. For the first time since I'd known him, he looked scared of someone who wasn't rich and blonde. The Almanzor family requested your presence at tonight's dinner. I thought I had heard wrong. My what? Your presence. I'm housekeeping. I told them that. Then why would they ask for me? His mouth twisted like the answer tasted bad. Mr. Amir. Almanzor specifically asked. The room seemed to tilt. No, he blinked. No? No, I'm not going into that ballroom like some joke. You don't have a choice. I don't have a choice. His eyes hardened. Then choose unemployment. I laughed once, short and bitter. He opened a garment bag hanging on the back of his door. Inside was a plain black dress. Not beautiful. Not ugly. Safe. A costume that said I was not staff, but not truly a guest either. You'll wear this, he said. You'll stand near the east column, you will not approach anyone unless spoken to. You will not embarrass the hotel. I looked at the dress. Then at him. Who am I supposed to be? His answer came too fast, presentable. That word hurt worse than I expected. At 8:12, I entered through the side door in the black dress and borrowed flats half a size too small. My hair was pinned back with clips from the lost and found box. I had no jewelry except my mother's tiny gold cross, tucked under the neckline. The ballroom was packed. Cassandra stood near the front in emerald green now, glowing under the chandeliers like she had been built from money and practice. Her father, Richard Whitmore, laughed beside Nadir Almanzor, one hand on the billionaire's shoulder like they were already family. Blair and the other circled Cassandra, whispering. I found the east column and stood there with my hands clasped. A few guests looked at me, confused, then looked away. Good. Maybe I could survive the night as furniture. Then Amir entered. The room shifted toward him and cameras lifted. Cassandra's smile widened. Her father straightened. Mr. Harlan nearly bowed from across the room. Amir greeted investors, shook hands, kissed his mother's cheek. Listened while his father introduced him to 2 senators and a hotel developer from Miami. Then he saw me. He stopped mid-sentence. Cassandra noticed. So did everyone else. He crossed the ballroom. Not toward Cassandra. Not toward the stage. Toward me, every step he took seemed to pull another layer of silence over the room. When he raked me, I whispered, you shouldn't do this. I asked you to come. I know. You shouldn't have. His eyes softened, but his voice stayed steady. I saw what happened yesterday. My fingers tightened together. So did a lot of people. No. They watched. That's different. Before I could answer, Cassandra appeared beside him. She placed 2 fingers lightly on his sleeve, as if claiming what had already been promised. Amir, she said with a laugh too sweet to be real, I think someone on staff misunderstood the guest list. I felt the old reflex rise in me. Step back. Look down. Disappear. Cassandra turned to the room, smiling. This is Elena, right? The maid who flooded the ballroom yesterday. A few people laughed nervously. My ears rang. Amir's jaw tightened. She did not flood anything. Cassandra blinked. Oh, I didn't mean to be rude. Yes, he said. You did. The room went dead quiet. Richard Whitmore's smile fell. Nadir looked like stone. Cassandra's face changed for only a second, so quick most people missed it. The pretty mask cracked and something mean looked out. Then she laughed. Well, forgive me. I just don't understand why a housekeeping employee is standing in the middle of Approbate investor dinner. Amir looked at his father, then at Cassandra, then at the entire ballroom. She's standing here because I asked her to. Mr. Harlan appeared near the column, sweating through his collar. Mr. Almanzor, he said softly, perhaps we can handle this discreetly. Amir did not look at him. The discreet part was when everyone watched a woman be humiliated and decided silence was more comfortable. A murmur moved through the crowd. Cassandra's nails dug into her clutch. I wanted to be grateful. I also wanted to run. Because men like Amir could afford moments of rebellion. Women like me paid for them. Please, I whispered. Let me leave. He heard me. His expression changed, not offended, not disappointed. Concerned. You don't owe this room your fear, he said. No, I said. But this room can still take my job. That hit him. Before he could answer, Nadir stepped forward. Amir. One word. A command. Amir turned. His father spoke quietly, but everyone listened. Tonight is not the place. Amir looked at me once more. Then he faced the room. If this hotel punishes her for being defended, then this hotel will answer to me. My breath caught. Cassandra went pale with fury. Mr. Harlan looked like he might pass out. And I realized something terrifying. My life had just changed. But I didn't know whether I had been rescued or thrown into a fire big enough to burn me alive. The next morning, my keycard did not just fail. At the locker room. It failed at the front service entrance. By 7:05, before I had even changed into my uniform, security escorted me upstairs like I had stolen something. Mr. Harlan was waiting in his office with a folder in front of him and no coffee this time. That was how I knew. People like him drank coffee when they planned to lecture you. They skipped it when they planned to erase you. Elena, he said, we're ending your employment effective immediately. The words landed so cleanly they felt rehearsed. I stared at him. For what? For repeated failure to follow guest visibility protocols. Guest visibility protocols? You entered restricted areas during VIP events. You sent me into those areas. His face stayed blank. There were concerns from important clients. Cassandra Whitmore. He did not deny it. She's not a client, he said. Her family is a strategic partner. And I'm not a person. I'm a problem. His eyes flicked toward the security guard, then back to me. I would be careful with your tone. I almost smiled. My tone. Not the woman who mocked me in front of 300 people, not the man who fired me for being noticed. My tone. That was always the easiest thing to punish. I took off my employee badge and placed it on his desk. My final paycheck? Payroll will process it. When? Standard cycle. You mean when you feel like it? He stood. This meeting is over. I walked to my locker with security behind me. Maria from laundry saw me and pressed her lips together to keep from saying anything that could cost her. James from banquets looked down at the floor. No one stopped me, but Maria slipped a granola bar into my tote when security wasn't looking. I didn't cry. Until I reached the subway platform. Even then, it wasn't a dramatic kind of crying. No shaking shoulders, no sobbing into my hands. Just tears sliding down while strangers stood around me pretending not to see. In New York, that was one mercy, people let you fall apart privately in public. By afternoon, I had a job washing dishes at a bakery in Queens. Less pay, longer hours, no health insurance, but the owner, Mrs. Kaplan, handed me an apron and said, "Can you start now?" I said yes before she finished the question. That night, my phone buzzed while I was rinsing flour from my arms in the tiny employee bathroom. It was my cousin Marcus. I almost didn't answer. Marcus was Aunt Rosa's son, 32, allergic to work, addicted to schemes, and always convinced he was one lucky break away from becoming rich. He had borrowed money from me for car repairs, sneakers, online courses, and once a crypto mentor who disappeared 2 days later. Elena, he said, dragging out my name. You famous now? I closed my eyes. What do you want? I went by the Grand Meridian. Why? Because Aunt Rosa heard you got fired after some billionaire stood up for you. That true? My stomach tightened. No? Funny, because a bellman told me the Almanzor heir walked across a ballroom for you. Like some movie. Marcus. Relax. I'm happy for you. No, you're not. He laughed. Okay, maybe I'm curious. A maid gets defended by a billionaire, gets fired, disappears. People would read that story. Don't what? Don't use me. The line went quiet for a second. Then his voice dropped. I owe some money. Of course you do. 20,000. I leaned against the sink. Marcus, I don't have 200. You don't, but your prince does. He's not my prince. Then he won't mind if I sell the story. My blood went cold. There is no story. There's always a story when a rich man looks at Opera girl. I hung up. By midnight, he texted me a screenshot of an email draft addressed to 3 gossip blogs. Housekeeper fired after secret moment with billionaire here at luxury hotel. Then another text. 20,000 by Friday or I send everything. I sat on the edge of my bed in my tiny room, staring at the phone until the screen went dark. My room was in those who worked night shifts. The radiator hissed like it had secrets. The ceiling had a crack shaped like lightning. My mother's framed photo sat on the windowsill, her in a yellow blouse, smiling at Coney Island before sickness turned her into a smaller version of herself. What would you do? I whispered. The photo did not answer. At 10 the next morning, while I was arranging croissants behind the bakery counter, a black car pulled up outside. I froze. A woman stepped out. Not Cassandra. Not a reporter. Yasmin Al-Mansour. She wore a cream coat, no huge diamonds, no bodyguards hovering around her like weapons. Still, every person in the bakery felt her before they looked up. Some women didn't need to raise their voices. The world lowered its own. Mrs. Kaplan whispered, "Is that a senator?" Yasmin walked to the counter. "Elena Cruz?" I wiped my hands on my apron. "Yes. I'm Yasmin Al-Mansour. May I speak with you?" I wanted to say no. I wanted to ask why her family couldn't leave me alone after getting me fired. But her eyes stopped me. They were not pitying. They were tired. We sat at the smallest table near the window. Mrs. Kaplan pretended not to watch from behind the espresso machine and failed badly. Yasmin folded her gloves on the table. "My son went to the Grand Meridian this morning," she said. "He asked for you. They told him you quit." I laughed before I could stop myself. "I didn't quit." "I know." Something in her voice made me study her. "How?" "Because I have lived long enough around powerful people to know the difference between a resignation and a disposal." I said nothing. She looked at my apron, then at my face. "I came to apologize." "You didn't fire me." "No. But my family's presence placed a spotlight on you. And spotlights can be cruel." I wanted to hate her. It would have been easier if she had arrived with money and arrogance. But she sat there in a Queen's bakery holding paper coffee like she had done it before. "You don't have to fix this," I said. "I'm not here to fix you." That sentence surprised me. She leaned back. "I was born in Dearborn, Michigan. My mother altered wedding dresses in a basement shop. When I married Nadir, his relatives called me temporary for 4 years." I blinked. She smiled without warmth. "They said I smiled too much. Spoke too loudly. Ate the wrong way, dressed the wrong way. Prayed privately, but not correctly enough for them. They praised my beauty because it was the only thing about me they found useful. Everything else was considered contamination." I had no idea what to say. "When I saw you in that ballroom," she continued, "I saw a woman I used to be. When Amir saw you, he saw something his father forgot he once defended." "Nadir defended you?" "Once," she said, "a long time ago. Then business grew. Money grew. Fear grew. Eventually, men begin calling cowardice duty." She took a sip of coffee. "My husband plans to sign a partnership with Whitmore Hospitality. Cassandra's family wants marriage attached to it, though they will never say that publicly." "Why are you telling me?" "Because Cassandra Whitmore is not just cruel. She is desperate." I frowned. Yasmin opened her handbag and slid a thin folder across the table. Inside were copies of financial summaries, news clippings, court filings, and handwritten notes. I understood maybe half of it, but enough words jumped out. Default. Fraud inquiry. Inflated property valuations. Private loan. Asset freeze. I looked up. "The Whitmores are broke?" "Not broke. That would be simple. They are over-leveraged, dishonest, and using my husband's investment to keep their empire alive long enough to sell the illusion." "Does he know?" "He suspects. But Richard Whitmore offers access to 12 luxury properties and political relationships Nadir wants badly." "Then why not show him this?" "I have. He says evidence can be interpreted." I stared at her. "So what do you want from me?" "The truth." I almost laughed again. "That's all?" "No. The truth in the right room." The bakery seemed louder suddenly. Milk steaming. Chairs scraping. Someone laughing near the door. "I'm a dishwasher now," I said. "I don't belong in your rooms." Yasmin's eyes sharpened. "That is exactly what rooms like that train you to believe." I looked down at my hands. My nails were short, cracked from cleaner, flour under one cuticle. "My cousin is threatening to sell the story," I said. Yasmin did not flinch. "Then remove the price." "What?" "Extortion works when truth is hidden. If the truth walks through the front door, there is nothing left to sell." I shook my head. "I can't be part of some rich family war." "You already are. The only question is whether you enter as their victim or your own witness." Her words followed through the rest of my shift. By 5, Marcus texted again. "Last chance." "I know people." I replied with 4 words. "Do what you want." Then I blocked him. At 7:30 that night, I stood outside the Grand Meridian in the best clothes I owned, a white blouse I had ironed twice, a black skirt, and shoes polished with a paper towel. I had considered lipstick, then decided against it. I didn't want armor that felt borrowed. Yasmin met me near the front entrance. Not the service door. The front. My body resisted it. My feet slowed. For almost 3 years, I had walked past that entrance with trash bags, supply carts, and lowered eyes. People like me did not pass through spinning glass doors. Under golden lights. Yasmin noticed. "Ready?" "No, good." False confidence I asseverated. We entered together. The lobby smelled like lilies and money. Two doormen recognized me. One looked away. The other stared like the marble itself had started speaking. Inside the ballroom, the closing dinner had already begun. The chandeliers were brighter than the night before. Press cameras lined the back. Investors filled the tables. Cassandra sat near the stage, wearing white this time, as if she had decided to dress like a bride before anyone asked. Amir saw me first. He stood halfway from his chair, and the relief on his face almost knocked the air out of me. I looked away. Not because I didn't feel it. Because I did. Nadir stood at the podium. Tonight, he said, marks the beginning of a historic alliance between Al Mansour Global and Whitmore Hospitality. Applause rose. Richard Whitmore beamed. Cassandra's smile widened. Then Yasmin walked forward. She did not hurry. That made it worse for everyone watching. Nadir, she said. The microphone caught her voice. The applause died. He looked irritated. Yasmin, not now. Especially now. A murmur spread through the room. She turned to the press. Before my husband attaches our family name to Whitmore Hospitality, I believe the guests deserve clarity. Richard stepped forward. Yasmin, surely this can be handled privately. She looked at him. That is what men say when public lies become profitable. Then she lifted the folder. The next 10 minutes felt unreal. She showed loan documents. Hidden liens. Emails suggesting Whitmore executives had inflated revenue projections. A lawsuit from a contractor who had never been paid. A pending investigation into a Florida property fund. Richard's smile died piece by piece. Cassandra stood. "This disgusting," she said. "You're attacking my family because your son embarrassed himself over a maid." The word hit the room like a thrown knife. Maid. There it was, the truth of what she thought I was. Not a job. Not a person. A lower species. Amir moved toward me, but I lifted my hand slightly. Not yet. Nadir took the documents from Yasmin. He read quickly, his face hardening. "Richard," he said, "is this accurate?" Richard opened his mouth. Nothing came out. That was answer enough. Nadir stepped back from the podium. Al Mansour Global will not proceed with the Whitmore partnership. The room erupted. Reporters shouted questions. Investors pushed back chairs. Cassandra looked like someone had slapped her in front of God. It should have felt like victory. Almost. Then Cassandra smiled. Not big. Not bright. Small. Cruel. She looked directly at me. You really thought you were the twist? My stomach dropped. She lifted her hand, and two security guards entered through the side door. Behind them came Mr. Harlan. And behind him. Marcus. My cousin. My blood turned to ice. Cassandra's voice rang across the room. Since we're exposing truth tonight, maybe we should discuss the missing diamond bracelet from my suite. I couldn't breathe. Mr. Harlan held up a clear plastic evidence bag. Inside was a diamond bracelet. I authorized a search of former employee Elena Cruz's locker after Ms. Whitmore reported the item missing, he said. We recovered this from her personal tote. That's a lie, I said. But my voice sounded small under the chandeliers. Cassandra's eyes gleamed. Is it? Because your cousin told us. You were desperate. Angry. Fired. Looking for revenge. Marcus would not look at me. Aunt Rosa walked in next, wearing a black church dress and the same disappointed expression she had used on me since I was 14. I warned people, she said loudly, that girl always had pride. Pride makes poor people steal. For a second, the room disappeared. It was not Cassandra who hurt most. It was Rosa. The woman who had Madim sleep on a couch and then called it motherhood. The woman who had counted every plate of food I ate. The woman who taught me to expect nothing, then hated me for wanting more. She stood there selling my name for whatever Cassandra had promised her. Amir reached me, Elena. I didn't take it. I know. But knowing wasn't enough. Security stepped closer. Nadir looked between me, the bracelet, Marcus, and the cameras. I saw the calculation. In his eyes. Not because he believed I stole it. Because scandal had entered the room and men like him feared scandal more than sin. Cassandra knew it too. She turned to Amir. Still want to defend her? Then, in front of reporters, investors, my former boss, my aunt, my cousin, and the man who had almost changed my life, she said the words that dragged me back onto that marble floor. Some women don't belong at the front door. No matter who invites them. Security took my arm. And this time, I could not stop myself from shaking. The room did not explode right away. That was the strangest part. When security took my arm, everyone froze in that hungry silence people fall into when they know someone is about to be destroyed and they want a good view. Cameras turned toward me. A reporter whispered, "Get her face." My Aunt Rosa folded her hands in front of her like she was at church instead of participating in a public execution. Marcus stood behind her, sweating under a jacket that still had the store crease in the sleeves. Cassandra watched me with her chin lifted, her white dress glowing under the chandeliers. For one terrible second, I was back on my knees with dirty water spreading across the marble. Only this time, it was my name. Amir stepped between me and the guards. "Take your hands off her." One guard hesitated. Mr. Harlan cleared his throat. "Mr. Al-Mansour, this is a hotel security matter." "No," Amir said. "It's a setup." Cassandra laughed. "You can't possibly know that." "I know her. You met her 2 days ago." He did not look away from me. "Some people tell you who they are in 2 minutes, others lie for 20 years. That sentence hit Nadir harder than Cassandra. His eyes moved to Yasmin. For a moment, I saw something shift between them, something older than business, older than this ballroom. Memory, maybe. Guilt. But Cassandra was not finished. "Search her bag again," she said. "Maybe she stole more." My breath came fast. "Enough," Yasmin said. Her voice was not loud. It did not need to be. She walked to the center of the room and looked at the evidence bag in Mr. Harlan's hand. "Where was that bracelet found?" "In her locker," he said. "Elena was terminated this morning." "Yes. Her locker was emptied under security supervision." Mr. Harlan blinked. "Yes. So you are saying a former employee returned to a hotel where she was publicly humiliated, somehow accessed a cleared locker she no longer had a keycard for, and hid a stolen bracelet inside a tote bag that security already watched her remove?" The room murmured. Mr. Harlan's face reddened. "The item was recovered after a delayed inspection." "Convenient." Cassandra snapped. "Are you accusing the hotel of lying?" Yasmin turned her head. "I haven't even started." Then she raised two fingers. A man I had not noticed before stepped forward from the side of the room. He wore a dark suit, carried a tablet, and had the calm expression of someone who had been waiting for permission. "This is Daniel Reyes," Yasmin said. "Former federal investigator. He now handles security audits for my foundation." Foundation. Not family. That word mattered. Daniel connected his tableau to the ballroom screen. Cassandra's face changed. Only for a second. But I saw it. Saw it, Amir. Daniel spoke into a handheld microphone. "At Mrs. Al-Mansour's request, were viewed publicly accessible lobby cameras, hotel hallway cameras, and exterior surveillance from neighboring businesses after Ms. Cruz was terminated. We were not allowed access to certain interior footage by hotel management." Mr. Harlan's mouth opened. Nadir turned to him. "You refused access?" "It was a privacy issue." Daniel tapped the screen. A video appeared. The ballroom from the night of the spill. There I was, pushing the mop bucket carefully near the champagne tower. Cassandra stepped back, paused. Looked. Down. Then nudged the bucket with her heel. Not accidentally. Not dramatically. Just enough. The bucket tipped. Water spilled. I dropped to my knees. The room watched Cassandra create the humiliation she had blamed me for. No one laughed now. My throat closed. Not because they finally knew. Because I realized how badly I had needed Pro of to be believed. The video stopped on Cassandra's smile. Yasmin looked at her. "Would you like to explain?" Cassandra's lips parted. Blair stepped away from her as if cruelty was contagious only after evidence. "That doesn't prove anything about the bracelet," Cassandra said, but her voice had lost its polish. Daniel nodded. "You're right. So let's continue." The screen changed. Service corridor camera. Earlier that evening, Marcus appeared near the staff lockers. My cousin. He wore a delivery jacket and carried a brown paper bag. Mr. Harlan stood beside him, looking around before opening the locker room door with his MasterCard. My hand flew to my mouth. Marcus entered. The timestamp burned in the corner. 6:14 p.m. The same time I had been at the bakery, still wearing my apron. The video skipped forward. Marcus came out without the bag. The ballroom began to buzz. Cassandra turned on Mr. Harlan. "You said there were no cameras there." The microphone picked it up. Every reporter heard. The room fell into a sharper silence. Daniel paused the video. "That statement was recorded," he said. Cassandra's face drained. Amir moved closer to me. Not in front of me this time. Beside me. Daniel opened another file. Audio. Marcus's voice filled the ballroom, shaky and greedy. 20,000 isn't enough if I'm putting it in her locker. Cassandra's voice answered, "Then make it 35,000. But if she talks, I want her gone before Amir does something stupid." Marcus. Cassandra. Proof. My knees almost gave out. Aunt Rosa grabbed Marcus's sleeve. "You idiot," she hissed. He yanked away. "You told me to take the money." Gasps rippled through the room. Rosa realized too late that she had been standing near a camera crew. I turned toward her. For years, I had imagined what I would say if I ever had power in front of her. I thought I would scream. I thought I would list every insult, every unpaid bill, every night I went hungry because she said grief didn't make me special, but when the moment came, I felt strangely calm. You raised me like I was a debt, I said. Tonight you sold me like one. Her face twisted. Elena, you don't understand, Marcus was in trouble. I was 14 when I was in trouble. You charged me rent in gratitude. She looked away first. That was the first real apology she would ever give me, and it had no words. Cassandra tried to leave. Yasmin stepped into her path. No, Cassandra laughed, wild now. You can't keep me here. I wouldn't dream of it. But you will hear this. Yasmin turned toward the guests. Cassandra Whitmore wanted Elena Cruz framed because my son refused to be managed like a business asset. Richard Whitmore wanted our money to hide his failing company. This hotel fired a worker for being defended, then helped plant evidence to justify it. Mr. Harlan whispered, that's not fair. Nadir looked at him. A cold, final look. You ended her employment because wealthy guests were uncomfortable with her dignity. Mr. Harlan swallowed. Nadir continued, you allowed a private citizen into your staff area to plant jewelry. You lied to my family. You lied to this room. And you did all of it inside a hotel asking me for investment. He turned to the press. Almansor Global is withdrawing from all negotiations involving Whitmore Hospitality and the Grand Meridian Hotel. Richard Whitmore staggered like the sentence had physical weight. Nadir, we can resolve this. No, Nadir said. You resolved it when you built a business on fraud and asked me to cowlit partnership. Then he looked at me. Not over me. At me. For the first time, Nadir Almansor looked less like a statue and more like a man who had found himself standing on the wrong side of his own history. He walked toward me slowly. I braced for another speech, instead, he held out his hand. I owe you an apology, Ms. Cruz. The whole room seemed to inhale. I should have listened when my son told me what he saw, he said. I should have listened when my wife told me what she knew. I should have remembered that a person's worth is not measured by which door they are told to use. I looked at his hand. The Nat Yasmin. She gave the smallest nod. I took it. His grip was warm. I was wrong, he said. Those 3 words did something no revenge could do. They did not erase what happened. But they put the shame back where it belonged. Cassandra stood near the stage, shaking with fury. You think this makes her one of you, she said. She's still nobody. Amir turned. No, he said. She was nobody to you. That was your blindness, not her identity. Cassandra's eyes filled with tears, but they were angry tears, not sorry ones. You're ruining my life over a maid. I stepped forward before Amir could answer. I cleaned your rooms, I said. I picked your hair out of drains. Evai put compagnie. Off floors after you wasted more in one night than I made in a month. I carried your luggage when you couldn't be bothered to say thank you. If that makes me a maid, fine, but you should know something. I looked around the ballroom. At investors. At cameras. At workers frozen near the walls. At least when I clean a mess, I don't blame someone else for making it. The room erupted. Not wild cheering like a movie real life is. Messier. Some people clapped. Some whispered. Some recorded. Some looked ashamed because they had laughed before the proof arrived. That was enough. Police were called, though Cassandra was not dragged out in handcuffs like a cartoon villain. Rich people rarely fall that fast. But statements were taken. Documents were seized. By morning, every business outlet in the city had a version of the story. Whitmore DL collapses. After gala frame-up scandal. Hotel worker fired, then framed during billionaire investor dinner. Al Mansour family pulls out of Grand Meridian negotiations. My name was everywhere. I hated that part. People sent messages pretending they had always respected me. Former coworkers texted heart emojis. Reporters waited outside the bakery. Marcus called from a number I didn't recognize 17 times. Aunt Rosa left a voicemail crying. About family. I deleted it. Family was not a word people got to use only when consequences arrived. The weeks after the gala were not romantic or easy. That matters. Because people love to imagine that once a rich man defends you, your life becomes soft. Mine became louder. Some people said I had planned it. Some said I was sleeping with Amir. Some said Yasmin had used me to attack Cassandra. Some said I should be grateful for the attention. Others asked why I didn't smile more in interviews, as if public humiliation came with a customer service requirement. Amir did not hide. That mattered too. He came to the bakery once, not with cameras, not with flowers big enough to make strangers clap, but with 2 coffees and a tired smile. Mrs. Kaplan nearly dropped a tray of muffins. You're going to scare away customers, I told him. He looked around at the line forming outside. I think I'm helping. You're not as funny as you think. No. But I'm more persistent. I didn't let him sweep me into anything. Not dates on rooftops. Not designer dresses. Not apartments with views. I had spent too long being treated like an object to become a better dressed one. He understood, or tried to. Yasmin understood better. She invited me to lunch 2 weeks later at a small Lebanese place. In Brooklyn, not a palace, not a hotel. Over lentil soup and flatbread, she asked what I wanted. I gave the answer poor women give when the question feels unsafe. I'm fine. She put down her spoon. I didn't ask what you can survive. I asked what you want. No one had asked me that in years. The answer came out slowly. I want people like me to have somewhere to go when rich people decide they're disposable. Yasmin smiled. Then let's build that. The idea became real faster than I expected and slower than I wanted. We called it Front Door. A legal aid and education fund for hotel workers, nannies, cleaners, kitchen staff, caregivers, and anyone else who spent their life making wealthy spaces livable while being treated like furniture. Yasmin funded the beginning. Nadir, to his credit, matched it privately and did not ask for his name on the building. Amir helped me hire attorneys, but I insisted on interviewing them myself. I enrolled in hospitality management classes at night because I refused to become the face of a foundation without understanding the system from both sides. The Grand Meridian settled my wrongful termination claim. Mr. Harlan resigned before he could be fired publicly. Cassandra's family empire did not vanish overnight, but lenders circled. Richard Whitmore stepped down from 2 boards. Cassandra disappeared to Palm Beach for a while, which rich people call healing when anyone else would call it hiding. Marcus took a plea deal after admitting he planted the bracelet. He sent me a letter. I didn't open it for 3 months. When I finally did, it said, "I'm sorry." I was desperate. I folded it back up. Desperate was stealing bread. Desperate was sleeping in a train. Because you had nowhere warm. Desperate was choosing between medicine and rent. While the had been was willing. A year later, I returned to the Grand Meridian. Not through the service entrance. Not in a borrowed black dress. I walked through the front doors in a navy suit I bought myself, carrying notes for the first front door scholarship ceremony. We had rented the same ballroom where Cassandra had kicked the bucket, where security had grabbed my arm, where proof had dragged the truth into the light. The marble floor was polished so bright I could see the chandeliers reflected in it. For a second, I stopped. I heard the old laughter. I felt wet sleeves against my arms. Thin woman behind me whispered, "Miss Cruz?" I turned. She was maybe 50, wearing a housekeeping uniform from another hotel. Beside her stood her daughter, who looked 19 and terrified in a thrifted blazer. "My mom got the scholarship," the daughter said. The woman held the certificate folder to her chest. "I almost didn't apply," she said. "I didn't think people like us got picked." People like us. I knew that prison. I smiled at her. We do now. That night, 40 women received grants for legal training, hospitality courses, nursing certifications, small business licenses, English classes, and community college tuition. Some cried. Some laughed. Some walked across the stage saucefly. You could tell they were afraid someone would change their mind and take the moment back. No one did. Yasmin sat in the second row. Nadir sat beside her, quiet, hands folded. Amir sat in the back because he knew I hated when people made my work about him. During my speech, I looked at the workers lining the walls. The servers. The cleaners. The dishwashers. The people every rich event needs and no rich event thanks. I used to think dignity was something you had to protect quietly, I said. I thought if I worked hard, stayed polite, and never caused trouble, people would have no reason to hurt me. But I learned something in this room. I paused. Some people don't hurt you because you did something wrong. They hurt you because your silence makes them feel powerful. The ballroom was still. So let me say this clearly. A job title is not a human ranking. The person cleaning the floor is not beneath the person walking on it. The woman carrying the tray is not worth less than the woman holding the champagne. And Noon should have to be defended by a billionaire before the world agrees she deserves basic respect. Applause rose slowly, then fully. Not for glamour. For recognition. After the ceremony, the new general manager approached me. He was younger than Harlan, nervous, and smart enough to be nervous. "Miss Cruz," he said, "on behalf of the Grand Meridian, I want to apologize again." I looked at him. Apologies are easy in ballrooms. Heswallowed. Yes. Change your contracts. Raise wages for housekeeping. Create a reporting system that doesn't punish workers for naming abuse. Stop making employees use broken service elevators while guests walk past 3 empty ones. And never again write a policy that tells workers not to look important people in the eye. He nodded. We're implementing reforms. Good, I said. Front door will be watching. For the first time in my life, a hotel manager looked relieved that I was watching. Near midnight, after the guests left and staff began clearing tables, I walked to the spot near the champagne tower. Amir found me there. "This is where it happened?" he asked. I nodded, the bucket landed there. He looked down at the marble. "I'm sorry. You didn't kick it." "No. But I came from the kind of world that made her think she could." That was the thing about Amir. He didn't always know what to say, but he had learned not to defend the wrong thing. I looked at him. "Do you ever regret it?" Walking across the ballroom. "Yes." He smiled softly. "Only that I didn't do it faster." I wanted to make a joke. Something sharp to protect myself. Instead, I let the silence sit. Over the past year, love had not arrived like a rescue. It arrived like patience. Like coffee at the bakery. Like him sitting in the last row. Like him asking, "Do you want advice or do you want me to just listen?" Like him learning that my independence was not a wall against him, but a home I had built after years of having none. I took his hand, not because he saved me. Because he stayed after I saved myself. Outside, Manhattan glittered through the tall windows. The same city. The same hungry lights. But I was not the same woman who had knelt on the floor with dirty water soaking her sleeves. Or maybe I was. Maybe that was the point. My worth had not begun when Amir noticed me. It had not begun when Yasmin believed me. It had not begun when Nadir apologized, or when the cameras turned, or when Cassandra finally had to taste public shame. My worth had been there the whole time. On the subway platform. In the service hallway. In the bakery bathroom. On Aunt Rose's couch. In every room where I had been told to lower my eyes. The happy ending was not that a powerful man chose me. The happy ending was that when the whole room finally looked at me, I no longer needed their permission to stand tall. Sometimes, even now, I remember the sound of that bucket hitting the marble. The crack. The splash. The laughter. But memory is strange. It changes shape when you survive it. That sound used to be the moment I became invisible. Now, when I hear it in my mind, I hear something else. A door opening. Not the service door. The front one.